Even after growing into an adult, I hated to go to sleep. It wasn't like that I didn't enjoy sleeping, but I resisted to go to bed until as late as possible, procrastinating the inevitable until exhaustion at the prospect of waking up exhausted in just a few hours forced me to bed, where I would toss and turn for 30 minutes or more. Elijah William, a 28-year-old who lived in a hoary house with his dad, who would often be gone for several days. Elijah worked as a software engineer. Elijah had always dreaded to go to bed because of all the frightening voices of screaming and crying that came from the mental asylum next to their house. So he would stay awake until the voices stopped. It was after just such a night that he met Edmund.
I was coming back from work that day when I saw Edmund sitting on the footpath. He said hi and we both started a brief conversation. He told me that he was forced to stay at the mental asylum. Those few minutes with Edmund were the most astounding moments of my life, as he told me that my father was the head of the mental asylum. I didn't believe him at first, but then he told me to meet him again at 4 next morning, and I was left shocked. Edmund wasn't lying. My father was the head of the asylum. I was coming back from work the next day, thinking that whether I should go meet Edmund or not, when I suddenly heard someone coming towards me from behind the trees. I stared for a few seconds and discovered that it was Edmund.
"Psst, Elijah, here!"
he said, running towards the bushes in front of the asylum door. I quickly ran towards him and then we went into the asylum. There was a lady at the reception who made me a pass so I could go into Edmund's room. As the lady was making my pass, I looked around the asylum and thought that this was the place that scared me to death every night and the place I dreaded to think of. And now I was standing at that place when suddenly Edmund called me and we went off to his room.
Edmund's room. Edmund went somewhere and then came back with a dusty photo album in his hand. He sat next to me and we started to flip through the pages of the album. He stopped at one photo and handed it over to me. It was a picture of my dad with some other men. And when I asked, how does he know my father, he said,
"That's what I wanted to tell you,"
pointing at one man in the picture.
"This is my father. My dad and your dad were best friends once, but then one day they had an argument and your dad forced me to this asylum."
I was left stunned and flabbergasted.
"I need your help, Elijah,"
he exclaimed.
"I haven't seen my father in 2 years." Voices of screaming and electric shocks start coming from the room next to us.
We were both terrified, but wanted to see what was going on, so we went inside the room. The room was empty, but then, at one corner, there was a girl, tied with wires, getting deathly shocks. I quickly rushed towards her and turned off the switch. She started to breathe heavily. So we got her off the board and took her to Edmund's room. Almost 20 minutes had passed, but she still looked petrified, so we decided to comfort her. I introduced myself, and so did she. She said her name was Jo, and my father is the one doing this all to her. We sat a while with her and made friends. There was this spark in her eyes that I felt so convinced to help her and couldn't stand seeing her being tortured again. So I decided that I was going to save Edmund and Jo.
We first started by making a map of the asylum. We marked all the spots from where we could escape. It was 3:15 and our plan was to escape at 4 because the staff of the asylum would be gone for tea break.
It was 4 and we decided that this was the time we had to escape. We hid Jo so the receptionist couldn't see her and told her to come out of the window.
We were just down by the river when suddenly my father came. He was quite fierce seeing me helping them both escape, so he took out a gun from his pocket and pointed it towards Edmund. As he was about to fire it, I ran towards Edmund and the bullet hit me in the chest.
"Run, you both! Just go! I'll be fine!"
I shouted, I saw them run away and started to breathe heavily, my eyes closing, and then suddenly there was a blackout.